So, before I reveal us today, I just want to let everyone know it seems the Blank's just a little horny. As we get a picture of Ed's side, he's just like, I'm just gonna. Okay, so we have a kitty. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday. Welcome to the Campfire here on MMOBuff. I am joined by my hostesses who seem to be the mostesses with appendages today, or extra additions to themselves. We have Ed with a kitty cat.
She seems generally unfussed.
We have a Blankspace with the horns.
Hello, folks. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day.
I have to ask, are you going to keep your hat on today?
We'll see. Not sure.
It might be one of those moments where he goes, all right, it's time for us to get real. Headphones come off, hat comes off. He goes, all right, let's talk. It'll be.
I like to do that. You know, it's kind of like taking off all your jewelry, forgetting to fire. Hold my stiff. All right, let's do it. So I like to keep all my gear on until then.
Not quite sure we ever heard a Viking talk like that. A Viking throwdown.
It's how it happens.
Tell you what. I just realized that for those who are unaware and who haven't had a chance to notice, I entered my back over the weekend and I'm not running on full cylinders. We're not talking about gaming absurdity today. We're talking about size and it mattering. I just forgot to make the change because I'm slow like that. Ha ha ha. Cheers. Right. So anyway, let's move into today because as you can tell, we do not have a guest today. Although from what Screen's telling me, we're about to be like landfalled by guests, which is lovely. Remember, if you actually want to come on to the Campfire, you can. This is a community show, so if you want to come talk about community, all you have to do is let us know, and we'll work with you. It's not difficult. But yes.
Yep, I'd like to confirm that none of our future guests are my imagination.
Nice. Good.
They're not the voices in your head.
Nope. Nope, they are real people. They might not have agreed to it yet. They might not be agreeing to it now. We'll work something out. If it involves chloroform, there might be a bit more talking from me and Blank.
Does it smell like chloroform to you?
I don't know why. But we're just going to leave it at that. Right, so let me lead you guys into why I think I wanted to, well, not why I think, but why I know I wanted to tackle this target in this particular issue today. Now, we've covered in the Campfire everything from trying to find the right tools, the right structure, coming up with ways to handle some of the more awkward situations that can occur in a guild or a community environment. And we've even tackled, what should you do when you go to look for a guild, etc. However, I've discovered something over the past couple of weeks, and I just went, this is a topic for the Campfire. We should totally approach this. I have been relatively busy on the current MMO server that my guild is involved in, which is WildStar on Eco and EU server, an EU PvE server. And I have been reaching out to a lot of the guilds that are present there to try and get in touch with them to figure out, what is it they're looking for in guilds. Because when you know your community, you have the right ability to push people into the right direction. I've spoken to quite a few people who don't have guilds as well. And one of the biggest consensus is that they think that a guild should give them everything. Or some people believe that their guild is the only guild that should exist. Now, this is not to say that people on Eco say that. I have had people tell me who are not in guilds, I'm not in a guild anymore because, the guild just, all guilds suck. That whole blanket statement that can come over when people are trying to discuss things. So what I want to tackle is why we need to have different guilds, different communities in games, and why no one guild is going to fit everybody, and why one person isn't going to fit every guild. So I want to start by asking you guys a question. Are you ready for this?
Ready for? Can I hit the question?
You can. Yes. You can. So my question for you is this. When you first started out in gaming and you were looking for a guild or a community to be a part of, did you have the thought in your brain that there's only one guild out there, that all guilds should be the same? Or did you actually just automatically know that guilds were going to be different, not one size would fit all?
When I started out gaming, when I started out in MMO gaming, I will be bluntly honest to you, I did not even look at the details of the guilds. I made the Safi look at it, and I made her pick one, because if she wasn't happy, then she was just going to end up leaving and leave me in a guild. So when we started gaming, the girl with the fork there, she was the one that picked the guild, because if she wasn't happy, then that would just make life difficult. So honestly, when I started gaming, she was in charge, because what I was looking for was, I was looking for a group of people to play, just play casually with and enjoy the game with people. That kind of base level of experience. I wasn't looking for any sort of competition. I wasn't looking to be server first. I was just looking for an environment to experience the game. A lot of people in their first, I find a lot of people in their first guild, they're not looking for being massively competitive. They're looking to experience the game in group content, and that's the sort of guild you're looking for. And it's different strokes for different folks, you know.
I now have this image in my head of like a public service announcement that goes, "Casual guilds, gateways to something beyond." When that's not the case, that's not the truth. But for some reason, because of the type of guilds that we're in, because we're not in, you know, your typical casual guilds, none of us are in that type of community. It just kind of strikes me as something to consider.
And do you know, I hadn't even looked at the show notes today, and I actually thought this, because first thing this morning I hadn't looked at the show notes and thought something quite interesting that kind of plays off this, and that I was just thinking, wow, I'm so busy all the time doing things and writing articles and doing admin and trying to progress the guild and keep us moving on and recruit, and at what point did I give up on just playing the game? At what point did it get to such a stage that we got so competitive, that we wanted to win all the time, that our guilds, it was no longer about just experiencing the game, and it managed to snowball that way without me even realizing it over the last decade. It's just crazy, and that shows how different guilds have to exist for different types of people, because people move on and people evolve. There was one thing that the very first guild leader I ever had said about his guild after he left it. His guild was called, what was it called? It was called Identity, and he said that people come in the guild, they find themselves, and they move on. And he always expected there to be a turnover in his guild, because people would find who they were in the guild, hence it was named that way, and then leave on to do what they wanted to do. And that's indicative of what happens to players when they stick with MMOs for a while.
That's interesting.
Sorry, tangent.
No, it's interesting that you go there, because it's like, it goes back to what I was joking about with the public service announcement. Some guilds you do find yourself, and some guilds and communities are that sort of end game kind of philosophy. In its own right. What about you, Blank? When you started out gaming, we know that you were big bad man, Mr. Viking Nation, Mr. What is it?
Back then, no.
Post YOLO, or
you got
did you
twisted.
retire? Did you retire your YOLO side?
When I first started, I started with first-person shooters, and we're talking Quake, Doom, Half-Life, Team Fortress, and my experience was very different, because I went into pub servers and would smash people's faces off, and people were like, "Hey, do you want to join our whatever?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But this was exactly what Ed just kind of mentioned. I was playing just for fun. I didn't really know what a 5-man team was about. I didn't know why people were practicing. I didn't give a crap about winning a month's worth of TeamSpeak and you know, a pub. You know, this crappy.com was going to give us 3 months for free if we won their little, you know, LAN thing. I was just like, dude, I just like to smash noobs in the face and run around with pistols. I'm the flashbang king, man, dude. I throw grenades and flashbangs like it's my job. I shoot people in the face with pistols, and then you know, that's it. Like 3-4 rounds in, we're rocking it. I didn't care. It morphed from that into, like, I got into MMOs, I got into World of Warcraft, and then things changed, because that competitive side very quickly snowballed, because it was like, you're dumb, you're doing this wrong, and I'm like, oh, well, how do I do it better? Oh, go to this site, go to that site, this is how you play your character. This is the things. These are these tools. And that competitive nature of mine just snowballed into, started with a casual guild for fun. And I was like, well, you guys all suck, so I'm leaving. And I'm going to this guild because they're ranked. And so then I played with them. And then it was like, well, you guys all suck. I'm going to the next one. And then it was like, oh, you're doing Molten Core, but that's all you're doing? You guys also suck. I'm server trained. You know, like, that the competitive snowball just went crazy. And after that, it was just like, it was always chasing that forbidden fruit, the next organization. And hopefully, most competitive players will find a place that they can call home, where the progression, unless you're aiming to be world first, and this, I mean, honestly, I'm going to say this, and I've pissed off some people saying it, world first used to mean something when you've got 10 million people chasing after it. If you're playing some game, I'm sorry to some of my friends or anybody who sees this, if you get a world first in a game that's got like 500,000 people playing it, I really don't give a crap. I'm sorry. There's not enough people there for me and it to be like, oh, that's awesome. I'm sorry. Back in the day,
do you feel that there's? I was going to say, do you feel that in that sort of environment, it's not even enough of a carrot for you to bother about it?
What is the point?
No.
When you're like, oh, dude, I was world first. At what? Oh, I played Yoshi. I was world first. Dude, nobody cares. Oh, dude, we were like world first in Rift. Sorry, dude, nobody cares. Or at least when I talk about competitive hardcore stuff, if there is not a big pool of people, whatever. But to reel back my tangent, this is why you need different communities. You need to have different places where there's an organization who used to do WildStar who moved on. They do hardcore content that's specifically PvE related. And if they like the game, they go in and they smash it. If they don't, they pass. Some folks, the sort of deal we're doing with Viking Nation is we allow people to just, whatever game you're playing, man, we're not looking for anything other than for you to have a good time and, that's it. A little healthy gamer to the side, cool beans. But you have to have diversity because there are so many people that are under the gamer nowadays. You have people that I've had people that are like, I've never played an MMO, and I'm like, okay, what kind of games did you play before this? Oh, Angry Birds on my phone, and I'm like, okay, all right. Well, we got a lot of like, what do you want to do? Oh, I just want to play. Okay, cool. At least the standards aren't that high. I've met a couple of younger aged folks. I'm trying to say this nice, like teenagers who are like, man, I want to be hardcore in this game, and you're just like, well, here is this box of tools for you. Feel free to go and find your destiny in gaming. It's good and it is necessary. I don't think there wasn't a huge draw to have a big bunch of diverse, I want to say, communities and guilds, because it was very polarized. And I might be wrong. I don't know if you guys agree. I feel like it used to be you're either a hardcore guild or you're playing casually for fun. That was it. And now there seems to be this, like, I've heard everything. My favorite is Mike Arwolf from in Onres. They consider themselves casually hardcore. When they play, they're hard, they're badass, they do everything they can, but they do it 2 nights a week. You know what I mean? There needs to be a bigger pool of communities for people to go to, which I think is important to tell folks. This is not 2005 where it's like world first, server first, hardcore, climb the 3 or 4 guilds on your server that are that, or hang out and derp around role play at the in Stormwind or whatever. No, like there are people. There's so many more people that are interested in those middle sections. There are people that are hardcore with role playing. I didn't know this was a thing. One of the role players for WildStar was like, "Do you see this?" Showed me an application that made me cringe, and I was like, "Crap! I put these things together for 10 years." And this thing was like, "Do you ever break character? Do you ever do this? Do you make mention of things that are not in game?" That I was like, "Holy you guys are hardcore about your role playing. This is a thing." So, anyways, I'm sure we could kind of move from this topic, but I
Well,
think it's good. It's necessary.
well, see, that's the thing. You nailed something on the head, and I kind of want to go back to it. There was this belief back in the day that you were either casual or you were hardcore. You could not be both. You could not even have any gray area in between these two dichotomies. You were stuck with one or the other. And I think there is something to be said for. We've discussed this in a previous episode where we're talking about the terminology and how the terminology of things like hardcore and casual has really changed over time, and how we think that people forget where the term hardcore actually came from, which you generously revealed to us there, Blank. But I think there's something to be said with the fact that casual and hardcore can exist in the same guild, especially if you use a different term. And I throw out, for your delectable enjoyment, a guild that is professional. Not hardcore, not casual, but professional. What do you think that would entail? Because this is a guild type that is out there.
I thought you were going to give us a guild name there. I was like,
yes,
I'm waiting for this one.
No, I have to pick on Anti-Snow because he showed up earlier today. I'm picking on Death and Taxes. I'm looking at you. Now,
Professional, in my opinion,
and
is either sponsored for or paid for what you do. And that's why I've always labeled myself as a professional gamer. If somebody has said, I'm going to give you, not just for barter, but I'm going to give you monetary compensation for your promotion or whatever of our product, or it's a straight up, we're going to take care of a sponsorship, that's professional. When there's dollar bills involved, people can be hardcore but never actually be professional.
Okay.
In my opinion.
That's a fair point. And people can be professional and not necessarily be hardcore.
Absolutely, that's absolutely true.
A profession doesn't need to be built on one area of performance. People are entirely professional gamers purely because they provide entertainment to people, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a hardcore gamer. Certainly performance is one element of it in terms of that, and you could certainly bracket that into hardcore. The guys, for example, I don't know, the guys in TCG and Guild Wars 2, they consistently top the ranks in Guild Wars 2 PvP every week in the ECL Cup, the ESL Cups and the tournaments. Yet, I believe you've got the team from. I'm just picking PvP events that I can pull from my memory right now, so that's why I'm going with the Guild Wars one. Yeah, I believe the guys from Car Crash won the NAEU PAX Invitational last year, and they're not professional. They are essentially, they're not being paid under those elements, and they are still, you'd still consider both those teams hardcore at the end of the day. So it varies, and yeah, you probably have to say that you can be professional without being hardcore, and you can be hardcore without being professional.
See, I think what makes things so complicated in today's day and age for people looking for their guilds, communities, or clans, because as Bid the Dog had brought up, there is something to be said for there being clans, and there's a whole bunch, whatever term you want to use to classify a group of people playing the same game with a goal and an intent. There you go. But, there's something to be said for trying to find the guild that best suits you, the community that best suits you. And we have a lot of guild websites out there, but we also have a lot of websites out there to help people find guilds. So, for example, if you're playing WildStar, you could probably go to your server forum and find a guild that's advertising or recruiting. If you're looking for a guild for World of Warcraft, there's World of Warcraft forums that do that as well. There's also sites like GuildX, where you can put your guild up and say, hey, we're currently looking for this, we have this. And they ask questions about you and tell you to describe yourself, and they only give you so many options. So, for example, are you hardcore? Are you casual? It's like a lot of places specifically want you to use terms that I think are too broad in today's day and age for the communities that we have. I really do wish we had a better way of doing it. Ooh, I like the head shake from the Blank. I know.
Nope.
Bring you the blank space.
You have to generalize based on what you're looking for. Those are the biggest holes. It's literally, how are you going to play? How do you perceive how you play? And pick one so we can then decide if we have open spots available for what you're aiming for. It's up to the organization to be like, we are recruiting hardcore PvE. We have this many slots on our front. That's why they have all these nice little widgets on all these free pages that are like, we're looking for this many people, this many DKs, this many, warrior tanks, whatever it may be. So yes, it would be nice, but it's up to the organization to pick those.
But see, how many times?
You're not going to say, I'm looking for a medium core, I'm looking for a casual core. People aren't going to, nobody's going to say that, because...
That's not true. How many times have you gone to, like, for example, I pick on Walsa because it's one that I've been playing and diggling my hands in the past couple of weeks. And how many times have you gone to the forums, and instead of them saying, we are looking for DKs, we're looking for Espers, we're looking for the tanks, we're looking for this, they say, we are a casual hardcore guild. And that is a part of the main forum topic. People are looking for more terms to describe themselves because, if you want to have a guild where you're looking for people to put the focus on PvE, let's go with that because you mentioned the fact that we had, tanks and the widgets for things like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that you are looking for the person who's going to stay in adult diapers while raiding.
They have a term for that, sweetie. It's called medium core.
But they don't show up on places like Guild-X and stuff like that.
Well, that's an oversight on let's say the whatever forum, it's Guild Launch or whatever that other one, whoever it happens to be. But go ahead. What was that, Screen?
I was gonna say, I think, to be honest, I think there's some. Not only is there an issue with different sorts of communities trying to find ways to describe themselves, there's some stigma attached to not labeling yourself as either hardcore or social. So social is the new term, really. It's not casual anymore. It's social. Let's be honest with it. That's true. That's what people say. People don't say casual because there's a stigma attached to it. There is a lot of stigma attached in some elements of the community to saying that you are casual, or even casually hardcore, or even that you are softcore or medium core, or that you are semi-hardcore. It's like you've got hardcore communities that well, let's be honest, people take the piss out of communities that consider themselves semi-hardcore, let's say, that want to experience the game, be somewhat competitive, and you get hardcore guilds that will just troll them. Not all, but the fact that it exists and the fact that that sort of quasi-bullying goes on within MMO communities means that there is some stigma attached to it, and you find that a lot of guilds will either try and find a new way to describe it because there isn't stigma attached to it, or they'll just label themselves as either social or as hardcore so they don't have to approach that problem. Some communities find that they can get around that just by, I just sidestep the whole thing. I just put in that we do what we do, and I put our focus on, and we just don't get engaged in that at all, and we try and find the right people rather than describe ourselves as hardcore or softcore, and people describe us, have described us in previous games as hardcore, and we just take it and go with it. But
see,
we've never described ourselves as that.
We have, I'm watching chat and I'm trying really hard not to laugh. First off, Kami, just so that you know, no, Screen is not a fashion designer. His missus, who tried to poke him with a fork earlier during the show, is, and she designs amazing cosplay outfits, which are absolutely incredible. But I'm seeing people go, well, I like this term. I like that term. I like this term. Again, there are so many different terminologies. What I'm going to do for you, Kami, is I'm going to do something very special. I am going to let Blank give you another little roundup of where the term hardcore comes from in gaming.
Who's called Adventure Buddies? That is the best term I've ever... That is amazing. Annie Snow, you are amazing, Adventure Buddy. I am using that on next recruitment thread. looking for adventure buddies. That is
Adventure
brilliant.
buddies.
Well, see, that's a really good way to do it. And for those who were unaware, anti-snow is in Death and Taxes, which is why I picked on them earlier because of how it works. So it's an interesting thing because most people, when they hear Death and Taxes, especially if you have a history in MMOs, you think hardcore, 7-day-a-week, hardcore gamers who are out there after the world first, and yet they're looking for adventure buddies. How great is that? But yes.
That is the best thing I've read all day.
One of the best. So do me a favor, if you don't mind, Blank.
Yes.
Just a small little dip into the world of hardcore. We have Kyrilos, I probably pronounced your name wrong, Kirlaus, who has said hardcore gamers spend a good amount of their time playing video games, often at the latest consoles, high-end PCs, are usually technologically savvy. In addition, they prefer to play games that don't have depth or complexity, and often seek out game-related information.
Oh, that's from the article I posted up. So we're gonna have a big blurb here.
The real
hardcore
talk.
gaming.
Real talk.
Hardcore gaming.
I like
started
housecore,
back,
by the way.
started in muds, mushes, and then became a big deal in RPGs early on. Hardcore, the term, had nothing to do with time in its original form. Hardcore meant you played a game where when you died, your character was no longer available. You lost your gear, you lost your stuff, the harsh penalties. So loss of in-game story progress, loss of emotional investment in the player character, permadeath, things like this. There was a social change as RPGs turned into MMORPGs, and hardcore then got attributed to the amount of time, which is why you can see things like a casual gamer is somebody who plays a game 12 hours or less. A casual core gamer is somebody who plays this many hours, and a hardcore is anything for 20 hours and above. These are not my definitions. These are other people's definitions.
Mm-hmm.
I actually linked one in there. If you really want to delve into some funny stuff, yeah, you can read the whole casual, core gamer, hardcore, pro gamer, newbie, retro, gamer girl. I think someday we need to have that whole fun discussion that's not happening today. But all of these things not needed to be, but they organically grew out of people describing things. Ninja Looter came from people stealing stuff during MC. If I remember correctly, and I may be wrong, I remember it became a really big deal for people running, alt runs back in Molten Core. I may be wrong, but that's when people started making YouTube videos. I remember there was a couple super famous guys who would go into runs and open up chests. There was no pop-up box. It was who gets to the chest first. Sit there, open it up, and ding, 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 piece them out, play funny music. Griefing, trolling, these have always been around for a while, but these terms have happened over time, and some of them have stayed the same. Trolling has stayed the same. Trolling has been the same description from its inception. When the back couple guys messing around in their stuff, to things like hardcore that have changed and may even change more in the future as hardcore and casual need to describe all of this other sort of stuff. And that's what we're seeing now, is that sort of online struggle to describe all of these, where people want to place themselves. So it'll be interesting what sticks and what doesn't.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out there that we've had Casera say that Ninja Loot has been around pre-WoW as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, that's the thing. WoW was not the first MMO. I mean, for those who like to make fun of all the games that are out there going, lol, it's a WoW clone, WoW was an EverQuest clone.
Yeah.
So, the gaming history brought to you by the Campfire here at MMOBuff.TV. Okay.
I'm just letting the history wash over me. That's what Wikipedia is.
Well, I'm about to ask you a question, Screen.
She'll let the question watch over. No, go on.
All right. So we know, and I think we all pretty much agree, that we need to have an amazing amount of different types of guilds and communities out there in order to offer things to people. I mean, one size will not fit all. Size does matter in this because it's what you as a player are looking for that is going to make the most impact and difference. But my question to you is this. When you go into an MMO and you go in with your guild or your community, how do you ensure that you work well with the ones out there that might be the complete antithesis of what your community or guild is about? How do you work in a community on a server, especially in today's day and age where, yeah, you can actually server transfer if you wanted to in some cases, and others you have the ability to, you know, roll random pugs with other servers. So you don't have to have that community that you used to have, but how do you build the relationships and work with all the other guilds that are out there?
Right.
Even if they think you're an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
Even if they think you're an idiot. I'm an
idiot.
No,
I'm an idiot.
If they think
this people is how you don't establish guild communities. You start insulting your fellow. No, anyway.
Now I have to throw out there before you begin. I'm asking this question for a reason. Now, we've had Blank learn a heck of a lot when we had Troy and Allie come on to talk about things, and, you know, when it came to guild development.
Is this
I'm now asking for advice on the best ways for me to handle what I'm looking to do in my guild. I want to reach out to all the guilds that are out there, but I've already started to hit some that seem to have sort of rough around the edges. Like, I've had some of them go, "You're coming to talk to..." I've never had another guild talk to me before. You know, so I'm looking for advice in this, which is why I asked the question.
Right, okay, so I'm gonna approach this from two different angles. A more generic point of view, pardon me, and then more directly the situation with WildStar. The main thing to be going, but the thing about building communities is it very much depends on the game content that you're playing. I say this because Afterlife have played in a number of different games now. Essentially, we played in we played mostly kind of PvP content, but the content within each of those games has been different. So, giving you specific examples, the content in Aeon required huge 300-400 man raids, all coordinated, 12, 20, 25 guilds, faction v faction, large-scale open-world PvP, 9 Ventrilo servers open at one point, directing 400 people across a huge map, and being able to coordinate with all of them and establishing those relationships. So a huge number of relationships across a large number of guilds across the server. Guild Wars 2 in World v World was something similar to the extent that you had when the game launched. Not so much now, the dynamics have changed somewhat, but when the game launched you had a large number of guilds, again, coordinate with each other across what we felt was a large-scale map at the time. Not now, we feel it's a bit smaller than it was, but over a wide area, and having people move, groups of people around, again, having a number of guilds coordinating with each other and talking to each other to move a particular piece of content around. WildStar is somewhat different. The content in WildStar doesn't require you, say, for example, with PvP, as an example, doesn't require you to have as large a circle of influence when you're actually playing the game. You do require 40 people for 40-man raids, for war pots, for example, but you don't require 450 odd people. You've not got a map that you want to fill with 150, 120, 150 people that you know everyone in that map, what they're doing, and having people coordinating back to you. The content's different, so the sphere of influence that you require is going to be smaller. So you have to bear that in mind when you're actually starting to approach a new game. With WildStar specifically, what we've been doing is we had two elements to moving into WildStar and starting to kind of make the relevant connections we needed. We've started by going ahead and we identified people that were playing the game that matched our game style. So we got guilds like VOTF that decided that they were gonna they knew who we were. So we already got guys that we know that have decided they wanted to play on the same server but against us. We have a traditional rivalry with them, so we're drawing on people we know already, so that's a start. With people like, say, for example, Immortalis Noxus, we got a good relationship with them on our current server. we started talking to them before the game launched. We noticed they were relatively active. I tend to then approach guilds that I see as active and within our playstyle to start setting up social links with them, and I usually do that at a kind of leadership level. And what I'll do is, if I can't approach someone directly on a end game, usually game's not the best way to do it. I usually tend to approach people directly on their own forums. So I'll research a guild, and I'll usually join the forum. I'll send PMs to people, and most forums and most people, whether they design it that way or not, will have an open public section, and I'll take the time to publicly start to try and interact with that guild, because that's usually the easiest way to do so. Basically, establish some level of visibility with them. Well, from your point of view, maybe, but from my point of view, I establish some level of visibility with the guild, and then once I get some sort of feedback back from them, then we start kind of moving forward to having direct conversations with them, setting up social systems in game, and then organising content to run with them. It's a difficult one sometimes to get moving forward, but that's kind of how we approach it.
You know, that's the thing. You know, one of the most difficult things that I've run into when it comes to trying to get in touch with different guilds and communities that are out there that happen to be on the same server that my guild is the response and feedback time. I've been in touch with some people who I've not heard back from at all, and I've been in touch with some people who, as soon as I could, I jumped onto their voice comm system, whatever it was, right, in order to chat with them. It's just, you know, I'm just curious if you've ever had a situation where you've actually run across, say, a guild or a community that basically just laughed in your face, and then
but that's I have people that laugh in your face and don't. I have people that laugh in my face and people that just don't respond. But that's part of the filter mechanism. That is. Wow.
Ow, 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 ow.
That's the point. That's the point of making soft contact, though. First, that's the reason that I usually approach through forums or social media, or try to interact with them first to try and get a good idea, of who we're dealing with. If I mention someone, say they've got a Twitter account, I mention someone on Twitter, and I don't get a response back. Maybe I do it a couple of times, and I don't get a response back. Fine. They clearly don't want to interact with people outside of their social sphere. That's cool. Mm-hmm. The same sort of thing with
approaching I also add, it's okay for a guild to be that way. It is okay for a guild to be insular, or a community to be insular, because there are some communities out there that are like that. It's not the type of community or necessarily guild that would work for me as an individual, but there are those out there, and it doesn't make them bad. I don't want people to think just because you don't respond, you're a horrible, horrible person. You may not have time, you may not have the personnel, you may not have the ability because you're dealing with other things. It doesn't make...
It might be socially awkward.
It might be socially awkward, etc.
Might be a douchebag.
I was going to see, Ed's a little different than me. I have a much more guerrilla marketing campaign for that, if you will. I go and I knock on your door, social media, zone chat. I'm like, hey, I did this in ArcAge. This is how we got up a pretty loosely put together alliance pretty quickly. I was like, hey, this is what we do. What are you guys looking to do? This is what we do. Cool.
May I jump in?
Absolutely.
Totally different content from WildStar.
Okay, fine.
You're looking at an open, right? Because you're looking at an open world content. See, no, this is how.
Sweetheart.
Is what I mean about
Sweetheart. Listen.
Oh.
Sweetheart. Sweetheart and sweetheart.
I'm going to start waving the X around. For WildStar, it's the same thing. We started Friday Night Fights. You know how it happened? We were kicking people's butts in World PvP, and we just happened to notice the same people.
World PvP, right there, World PvP. Different content from what I'm talking about. See, what I did was I gave you an explanation to start. You know, you said World PvP. I explained with Aeon and with Guild Wars, these were different types of content within WildStar.
Are we not talking about
I admit I wasn't specific.
Are we not communicating with other organizations, making contact? It doesn't matter the context. I could just be talking to them on Twitter about playing Hearthstone on Fridays while we drink beer. You can't look at just the base result, because contacting another organization for any sort of community event, in-game stuff. It doesn't matter. Open world PvP, whether we're working with people in WildStar that are on our server to do 40-mans with. It doesn't matter if it's people to come hang out on the stream when we play viewer games of League of Legends. It doesn't matter. The base idea is this. If you want to get out there and talk to people, you can do exactly what Ed said. And you can get on their forums. Social media is huge. It's one of the easiest ways, and you get to know pretty quickly if they're paying attention, if they've got somebody who's in charge of this stuff. If that stuff doesn't work, go to the website, see if they've got an open TeamSpeak or voice comms. Literally, I'm the guy that's a bull in a China shop. I walk in, I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? My name is Blankspace. I stream. I'm a part of the Viking Nation. I'm actually the dude in charge of it. Wondering what you guys are up to. Are you interested in doing some PvE content? No? Get bent? Screw myself? Nice to meet you guys. Have a good one. Whew. That happens. You just kind of shrug it, and I'm very much a believer of the more times you put out a fishing line, the more fish you're going to catch. If you only put one out there, you're not going to get a lot back.
Entirely.
And you can go everywhere from soft forums, soft, gentle touch stuff, as Ed has said, or do up in your face like, we just smashed Afterlife tonight in PvP, and then hopefully they tweet back, we're looking forward to it again next week. That now has established. That's exactly how Friday nights happened. Friday night fights in the Widow server started with us versus the Vindicators, and now it's Viking Nation and Guild Umbra and Mog Nation and some other guilds and random people. People on the server are just like, hey, dude, when are Friday night fights? Where's it going to be? It's going to be at Whitevale. We lined people up. We were, communicating with them. Any way you can make contact, people, they're not going to understand because a lot of folks are used to their little tiny guild. It's up to you, Josie, to make that contact. Tell them what you're looking for. I'm sure you're not as forthcoming as I am. I'm like, yo, Friday night fights. You're going to be there. You're going to be a loser. All right. Better see you. 9 o'clock.
I admit, when it comes to the two of you, I definitely sit solidly in the middle as to how I handle things. However, before we go too far further, I want to answer Kami's question because this goes back to something we've talked about in a previous show. And Kami asked, why are you getting in touch with these guilds in the first place? It is different for every single community. Not all communities do what we do. Not all communities are going to go and contact someone because of the reasons I contact them. What I firmly believe as an individual and why I do it for Enigma, which is the guild that I am a part of, is I want to know who is on our community server because I believe the people who are on the server are actually going to make the server have its wealth of community, that sense of this is my server, this is a source of pride, these are the people who are on here, these are the people I run into, etc. And that to me is important. Mix in with the fact that if I know who is on the server guild wise and we have someone who decides to come to apply to Enigma and they don't quite fit in with the kind of culture we're trying to build, I have an idea of where to direct them. I don't want people to be without a community unless that's what they want. I want to help facilitate people getting to the community that's going to best give them the gameplay experience they're looking for. If you are looking for a guild on Eco that raids 7 nights a week for 6 hours a night, I have their name and I can put you in contact with them. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. But if you're looking for a different type of guild, I can suggest check out these couple of guilds. Check out these people. On top of that, I've now have guilds who I've made contact with who come to me going, do you know anyone who could do an alliance? I'm looking for this particular type of content. Or someone's come to me and go, we're looking for a graphic designer. Is there anywhere on the server? Let me get back to you. That kind of stuff engages the community. And when you run around in your little different parts of your MMO, whether you are running around in the starting area just because you happen to be a max level and you want to like wave around and let people see your awesome gear, or whether you go up and you PvP up against somebody, when you start to see similar names, it makes a sense of community that much richer. Now that's why I do it. I do it so that if we have somebody on our server, which we've had, do a server first down of something, we want to be able to say congratulations to them. We want to be able to give them props for what they've done. If we have people who are going, how do we learn how to play this? We go, this is what we've learned, and we'd love to share that information. I mean, our website is currently going through a transition, but we've had people come to us and go, well, how do you do this as a stalker? Well, our stalker sergeant stepped up to the plate and went, here you go. We want to have that kind of community because that's the type of people we are. Not everybody does it for that reason. So I kind of need to stress that. So for example, why do you two reach out to communities?
I would, you know what? I think a more interesting question is why do we think each other do it?
Well, I've
Because I
already
think I
given
can draw.
I've given my ow, ow, ow. Ow. I'll
Well,
tell you
I
what,
know
I'm gonna
why-
Yeah,
sit
no,
back.
but
I'm
I-
gonna sit back for a little bit and let you guys go because unfortunately I
Well,
just had
me
a
and Ed-
huge tweak.
Me and Ed do it for the same reason. We have a goal or something we're looking to do. Sometimes it's just general, hey, hi, who's on my server? Other times it's going to be, I'd like to do an alliance. Sometimes it's, excuse me, your Screenager? One of your members messed over one of my members. I'm the GM, you're the GM, we have mutual respect for each other. How do we fix this? You have those kind of conversations. There are multiple different reasons and goals, objectives of why we do this. In the end, some of them build community, some of them are introducing yourself to other folks, some are finding out people you don't want to do stuff with. Can't tell you how many times I've gone to speak to somebody, professionally nice, like, hi, I'm the leader of this organization, I'd like to speak to you, and have somebody speak down their nose and just be like, well, I was super great at Smash Brothers 4 at one time. Well, bro, I don't care. Goodbye, I'm never speaking to you again. Screen knows who I'm talking about. The point is, it's a growing and learning experience, and most of the time, at least for me, and I'm going to assume for Screen, it is object-oriented. We are looking for something, and it's not as openly, like, I'm not looking to explain to everybody how to play their Stalker. Like, sorry, that's not my, if someone's like, hey, Blank, I'm in this other guild that never talked to you, how do I play Stalker? And it's going to be, I don't know, let me ask in guild, and if nobody knows, the answer is, sorry, dude. Whereas you, Josie, would be like, oh, there's this guild of helpful people over here. What? Yeah, like, dude, this is way too much work for me. I got stuff to do. Ed, how close am I?
It's not a million miles away. The primary reason that a lot of guilds will reach out to interact with and cooperate with other groups of people, be it communities, guilds, or circles, in the case of WildStar, is to get something out of it. So you're going to leverage other people for something that's mutually beneficial. It's the same way that it works in society. So that being, you're going to get a fight night event started that benefits your guild because they get something to do. Let's be honest, it's not just about building the community. Or you create a circle with other competent players that can then go and do a warp or a dungeon, or you establish good communications so you can do a large-scale open-world raid knowing that the people that you're sitting on a comm server with are competent and they're going to be giving you information back and they can do the job, and that allows you to capture the relevant points you want to capture and push the relevant zone that you want to. You always end up getting something out of it. You're going to give someone else something out of it. It has to be mutually beneficial, but from our point of view, we certainly, myself and Blank, tend to do that. From Josie's point of view, I would say from looking at it subjectively, Enigma gets something out of it. Enigma get the fact that they are a central social nexus within that community. That may not be the exclusive reason for it, but you do get that out of it, and everyone, you're mutually beneficial to the people that use that position that Enigma find themselves in. They get to be able to contact you, find people, talk to people, facilitate social interactions, and you find yourself as a central nexus which establishes your social position within the hierarchy of the server.
Yeah, and in the end, one of the things, because I've had to explain, because I've had guild leaders going, what are you doing? No one's ever reached out to us before on any other game we've ever played before. And I'm like, in the end, we're the ones who make the community what it's going to be. Developers will give us games. Developers will give us a place to meet up, etc. But we can either make the community that where it's so insular, nobody knows anybody, or we could be supportive. And that's one of the things that I do.
Wow, but here's the thing, Josie, it used to happen.
It used to happen organically.
And it still does.
Not always.
through, you ready? Conflict. Conflict
Okay.
still grows
Not
community stuff.
every server is PvP.
That's fine.
And that's the thing, you know, there is a very big difference between the PvP servers where you have the ability to go, yo, you up for fight night, let's do this, compared to the guilds where they're like, or the servers were like, so have you guys actually taken down Storm Talon? Have you guys done this? There's a slight difference. There's a different type of competition than that. And I think it's well worth noting that in a PvE environment, you don't just have the people who are looking for that endgame raw, hoomba, shish bob competition, where you could say, hey, how far did you guys get this week? Did we beat you by 1 minute? You can have that kind of conversation with them, versus the guilds that are out there that are the laid back ones, the sort of identity guilds that Ed was talking about a little earlier. You know, there is something to be said there. However, I hate to say this, but we are going to have to cut this down because there's many things that need to cover before we close the show, and we are at our close time. So you guys get a chance to say an extra thing about this topic in whatever way you wish to say it, including, yes, Pseudo, you're an absolute weirdo, but go for it. What would you like to say?
Pseudo, you're an absolute weirdo.
Thank you. Blank?
What I will say is there is a big focus on PvE, PvP, and systems from you two. I break it down bigger to both playing. You know, this is for anybody building a community. So that is people who play, Jesus, what is that game where people dress up as fake human beings in another game? There are more than one type of community. We don't have to focus just on MMOs. There are first-person shooters, there are RPGs, there's lots of other stuff. I feel today that both of you really stuck on this whole framework of
I stick with MMOs.
PvE, but there's more to gaming as communities. What if somebody comes here, which has happened to me, and it's like, dude, we play games casually, which is not my cup of tea anyways, my expertise, and was like, we play games casually, we've been doing this forever, how about an organization like Warrior Nation I used to be a part of? They're ginormous. They play all sorts of different games. I don't want to keep such a narrow scope to the things that we discuss when we talk about communities, because yes, while we talk about PvE or PvP, in an MMO community, cool, yes, people are walking away, and maybe a lot of our viewers are specifically are engaged with MMOs. There are people that have communities that are much larger than that are gaming-centric, and I'm trying to break down these two barriers, and I know it's kind of a struggle, where I come from a first-person shooter background. Communities get built different there. Competition is a thing, and it's not bad. There's conflict. There's people who run casual gaming communities where their only focusing goal is to have events. They don't care about where they rank. They don't care about what it is. They buy each other new Steam games so they can all play together. And we're talking about thousands of people. Like community, today we talked a lot about why we need these sort of things, and it's exactly for what we're talking about. We can't just have hardcore and casual. We can't keep it within the scope of MMOs. So,
well, see, I agree with that. I want to stress, you know, this was sort of a stumbling block that I have found myself in, and I was looking for advice and support, as well as kind of the amount of people who I have spoken to who are like, you know, the guilds, whatever guild I'm in should tick every single box I'm looking for, and that's kind of not always a realistic thing. You can get pretty damn close. You can get pretty damn close where a guild can give you pretty much most of the things you're looking for, but there's always going to have to be some kind of give and take on both the community side and the individual who's a part of its side. And that's sort of where this came from. And I probably should have said when I started, you know, it's not just about the one size fitting all for MMOs, but it's for others. But I did put a heavy focus on that. You are absolutely right. And I will tell you, there are many other types of communities out there, and they do form differently. They do meet each other under different banners. But in my particular case, I put the heavy focus on that because everyone's in that same server. You're stuck. There's an investment when you do an MMO. You're stuck on a persistent world, generally speaking, because, yeah, you can pay for server transfers and stuff like that. But generally speaking, that community is stuck in a very specific, persistent world. But, yeah.
My last thing I'll say, my walkaway is this. Josie, you're looking to talk to people that are specifically, these are the tools for my toolbox. Look in zone chat. Look where conflict naturally engages in the game. Look for people doing the same PvE content as you. You're going into a dungeon, an adventure, whatever. Find those people, talk to them, ask them, a recruiting officer, PR officer, whoever. And then you have my big hammer. Go to Engine. They have the ability to search by communities, the type of games they're playing. Go to Guild Launch. Do the same thing. these free-to-make websites have the
And
ability
build
to
X.
literally go by server, game, what are they playing, and if they've done the work, they may not be actively recruiting, they may be on your server, you may not know who they are. Now you have the ability to contact them directly using the tool that Ed gave you, and make contact.
Yep.
So that's it.
It's pretty much what I've been doing, which was why I was just curious as to how you guys dealt with the different reactions you got, which is where I ended up taking it in the end. But yes. So
yeah, but as a more realistic note than Josie, you're a big weirdo. Just a note to people.
I don't know if I want to let you talk now. You've said it, so I don't know. No, go ahead.
Just a note to people looking for a guild as opposed to guild leaders building a guild. Understand that communities there's a number of different communities for a number of different people. These communities are all built by, usually they're started by one or a small group of people. They're going to start being built specifically for that type of player or those type of players. And there's many different types of people in the world as there are flavors of ice cream and probably more. You're not going to... Everyone's different, so look for the people first and try and understand that if you're going to be playing with these people for potentially a long time, whatever game it is, whatever style it is, then look for the people first, take your time, get to know some people. Don't be afraid that if you don't feel that they're going to fit, to step off and just tell them that you don't feel the community is right for you. At the end of the day, they're going to be your partners in whatever game you're playing for however long you're playing it. And if they're not the sort of people that you want to spend that time playing with, then don't get yourself stuck in a position where that you don't want to, where you can't get out of it, or you're going to feel embarrassed to step away from.
Okay, someone's air conditioning just got a little bit loud.
Is it mine?
I think so.
It might be. We don't really need air conditioning in the UK. It's a little colder than over there.
Oh. What the?
Look, I want to throw out there, in the end, you're going to go for the community you like. As much as we want to say, look for the community for the people, there are going to be people who look for the goal of the community before they look at the people, and that's okay too. There are communities out there for that. People who are interested in getting into world first guilds generally don't care who they're running with as long as they're hitting that world first kind of a thing. So they don't always look at the people first. I personally would say look at the people first, because honestly, if you're going to be going after world first and you don't like the people you're running with, you're not going to have as much fun. But that's just my opinion. But again, it's a matter of finding the situation in the communities that work best for you. So
if you're going for world first, it doesn't matter how much of an a-hole the other guy is, the raid leader is. If you're making your numbers and you are competing, that's where the fun is. The fun is, yo, look at this. You got one of these? You don't? Ah, that's right, because you're a baddie and you're a casual. Look at this. I am awesome.
Sorry. How much of the world makes the world first? That was the 1%, okay. I believe, that Carbine
we're going to...
it as. So if I'm making sweeping generalizations, I think that's a fair sweeping generalization to generalize 99%.
Okay. Welcome to the Campfire. We're all from different points of views. Hi, everybody. It's conflict. Look at us. We're building a community through conflict. Sorry. All right. Moving on.
Think someone better put out the goddamn fire. Gonna start through.
Right. Before we go any further, we've reached the end of our show. We've got a couple of things that are going to be coming up that you're going to want to stick around for. But... well, first off, we're going to go over some interesting charity events that are going on, and we're going to give you that information. I need to give you guys a bit of information for you who are watching. I made mention of this yesterday, and this should be made mention on every single show until Pseudo is satisfied, and that might take a while because I'm picky. We are looking for some people...
size doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh, that is so not at all what I was going for. Now I want to just like smack you through the screen digitally. No. Okay. We are looking for people to join our writing team here at MMOBuff.TV. We're looking for people who want to write about online games, and we're looking for people who are willing to make a dedication to it. For example, we're looking for a new WildStar writer. We are looking for people who might want to write about ArcAge. We're looking for people who might want to write about EverQuest, who might want to write about some of the other games that are out there. If you are someone who is interested in this, get in touch with me at voice@MMOBuff.TV. We've had a couple people approach. I've had some people approach to write about Nosgoth. Speaking of which, Blank, I really need to grab you and one of our editors from MMOBuff and just for fun, go play Nosgoth together, because that's a really fun game. But anyway.
I agree.
But anyway, on top of that, we have also a need. We're starting to look for people to help us out with audio-visual stuff. So if you are good with Premiere, and I stress Premiere here because there are other applications that are out there. But if you're good with that and you are interested in potentially helping out here at MMOBuff, get in touch with me. We're also looking for new moderators as well and potential researchers. In the end, if you want to help out and make the MMOBuff more what you're looking for or offer suggestions, we want that as well. So voice@MMOBuff.TV, please, please, please get in touch. Now, tomorrow's show, the Blizzard Forecast. Blank's going to be on it. I'm not. The Blizzard forecast is completely and utterly changing, and it is something you guys will want to watch, to see, to behold. And it is going to be an interesting thing. We're trying to streamline all of the format to make it a much easier to digest experience in the end. And we want you guys to be a part of that. So you have Parv, you've got Mispa, you've got Blankspace, you've got Trollden. You've got a lovely team of individuals who will be going over the Blizzard IP with you all. If you have a desire to get Warlords of Draenor in your hand, we're giving it away. We're giving away multiple copies of Warlords of Draenor and the base game as well. So for those who may not have it yet, or you may want a duplicate account, or if you're a 17th account, I know some people out there who have 24 accounts at World of Warcraft. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, you're going to want to be a part of tomorrow's Blizzard forecast. Thursday at 1 p.m. we have our Data Mine show, and we have a guest joining Chris and Danny and myself. And this guest, his name is Rami, and he is a really, really lovely guy, and he is an independent developer, and I'm not exactly certain exactly what we're going to be discussing, but ooh, it'll be interesting. And Kami, sometimes I need a day off. Wednesdays are supposed to be my day off. Supposed to be, but you know, doesn't always work out that way. But Thursday at 1 p.m. If you are interested in game development in any way, shape, or form, you're definitely going to want to be there. The week after that, we have an artist joining us from an independent game that's going to be hitting Kickstarter very soon, who's going to talk about how to take art and actually put it into a game. Because game development isn't always about the code. And that's something that we want to stress. Friday, we have Gazimov, Kaidream, myself, and well, Mizpah to discuss WildStar and Cosmotronic. If you have questions for us, let us know. Saturday, Infinity Wars. Have you ever played Infinity Wars? This is to you guys.
Nope, I have not played it. I know of it, but I have not had time to indulge in it yet.
I have to take my hat off to Infinity Wars. They have been incredibly patient with us. We were supposed to have our first show out this past weekend about Infinity Wars, but both Marsh and I had problems. I injured my back, and Marsh got really, really sick. And the people at good old-fashioned Twitter for the Infinity Wars were like, "Get well, guys." So I'm all like, "Oh, yay." So we'll be doing our starting review of 5 weeks towards Infinity Wars TCG, and it's a bit of fun, a bit of excitement, and other things that go with it. Then Monday, Miss and I are back. And then next week, Screen. Tuesday. Yes. Do we have a guest?
Do we have a what?
Guest.
A geist?
Yes. Do we have a geist joining us? Do we have
a geist? Do we have a ghost?
Do we have an Eidolon joining us?
Do we have an idol? We
Eidolon, not an idol.
We might have an idol. We could ask for an idol.
Who do we have joining us next week?
I think Kai knows an idol. We could totally ask Kai to get one. Yeah. Anyway, yes. Randomness. No, I'm not going to tell you who we've got on yet because I have yet to get the yay or nay from them. So we'll find out a little later on this week.
Sounds like a plan. I do apologize. My back just really went to the next level. Okay, so we have some awesomeness that's going to be occurring when it comes to charities that we want to tell you about. So, Screen, you take one, and then Blank, you take the other, and I'm just going to sit back.
Blank, you can take the first one, because... Go on. Everyone give Blank a couple of moments just to open the show notes and find the link, and then read it, and then read it back to you, because he's totally prepared for this, and I'm not filling at all right now. In fact, see, look at that. Right, I think Blank can tell us about this charity now.
Somebody dropped this in my chat earlier. It's a Final Fantasy V Fiesta Child's Play. Go check it out. We're going to drop a link.
They're very close. They're very close.
$9,000 of $10,000. It all goes to the kids. So why not? And
everyone loves those kids.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a Viking Nation or a Healing Over Time, you know. And it doesn't have to be $1 billion. A dollar helps. And the good part about these sort of charities is you know that it's going to the kids because you get to see it. And it's from developers that I get to talk to, not developers, from company people that I get to talk to and be like, so are you guys actually spending all the money on like big calculators and shit? And you're like, oh, no. So put your dollar in. Know it's going to the kids.
I would love to see you do a charity stream and then spend money. Not the charity money. Just spend money on a giant calculator. Like a blank-sized calculator just to sit here, just to punch the charity numbers in.
Yeah. Oh my God. Is this a thing? While you tell the next one, I'll be right back. So.
It's like the next stream is gonna be like, yes, we got 2 subscribers. That's 2 times a $4.99. Okay. So on completely other note, sorry, we've been a little random today. He's actually searching to see if he can buy a man-sized calculator off the internet right now.
I am.
He is as well. You can see it in his eyes. So our next community event of our next community project of note that I'd like to bring on is not actually a charity event, but it is something that will be of note for anyone that plays or has an interest in Guild Wars 2. The guys at Guildmag, if you've heard of them, for some time have been doing a huge service to people playing Guild Wars 2. They have been trawling the forums and the fan sites and the guild's websites, and every single week they put together a list of all the community events that they can possibly find running. So everything from the Gassiot, everything from things like the Gassiot's Great Terrain Adventure through to PvP tournaments running on servers run by communities. They absolutely trawl it, and it's a great service. And it's just worth noting because obviously it helps bring communities together. That should be the current PvP event calendar from the Guildmag guys. Yep, it should be. So keep an eye on that if you play Guild Wars 2, and you can see what's going on at a quick glance within the game rather than have to do all the trolling of the forums yourself.
Yep, and the very last thing...
That is trolling, not trolling.
And the very last thing that we're going to bring up is we had a lovely joiner, one of our guests from Goshkiak, who came to share information about what it's like to run a massive community. And they had a magazine that they just introduced and just started, and we want to spread on the word. They have released their 2nd edition. And their 2nd edition is now up. I am now going to drop it into the chat. I want to take my hat off to them. They are doing amazing. But, you know, when you have a community and you've got your tools all set up with the automation working the way it's supposed to, you can have a very powerful community that is incredibly supportive to each other internally. And that is a very, very lovely thing to see. Now, I'm just going to refer to the chat really quick and just see... fantastic Gothic Slicer. Really appreciate you getting in touch about that. And Kirlaus, what would you like to talk about when it comes to being a guest? And that's something, once I get your email at voice@MMOBuff.TV, I direct you to our, this is going to sound a really fancy term for Ed, but he is our scheduler. He is agenda man for the Campfire. And on that note, I do apologize, but we do have to end the show. I am very sorry, guys. It's one of those things. But yes. So it leaves me to thank every single one of you for showing up. Remember, if you like what you see, please make certain you click like and stuff like that on our YouTube videos. Tweet out that we are on. Share our YouTube links with people. Get in touch and let us know how we can improve. And if you, and I love saying this because Blank just makes the weirdest face, if you'd like to go that extra 2 miles, you can always subscribe to us. And that subscription is down there underneath us. Oops, on this side. Yeah. And there you go. And on that note, Screen, thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you so much for putting up with us and our fighting with fire and sticks and nails in it. And oh dear God, you've gone 80s Top Gun on us.
And thank you, Blank, as well, for coming on. Can you do
See
me?
you later,
See
Iceman.
all of my wonderful adventure buddies next week, and hopefully tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
We need Campfire to put him in an Adventure Time
You
sort
know
of
what?
animation now. We need that to happen.
Anti-Snow, you will always and forever be my adventure buddy. There we go. Yes, that's what we need. Adventure buddies. Yay. But yes. And on that note, it does leave me to say bye-bye to everyone. Thank you so much. MMO love for you. And of course, I love you guys. I loves my hosts. Bye, everyone. Doodle pip.
Bye, everyone.